This is a WYMT Mountain News presentation.
Reports coming in that there is a tornado on the ground, and looking at that radar signature, I'll tell you what, I just about bet my bottom dollar that that's the case, and it is headed right toward Morgan County.
We could see it forming and twisting, and we stood in our yard and watched it twist over, and it came right towards West Liberty.
I'm breaking down. I'm physically healthy. I'm mentally shot up. I gotta pull myself together to keep the county going.
I was telling them it's okay, but in my mind I knew that we was dead. Just this one time I'm gonna ask you, just don't let this hurt my babies.
This is the Mountain News Weekend Edition, remembering March 2nd.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley. March 2nd, 2012, a day that many of us will remember the rest of our lives. At this hour, 1 year ago, deadly tornadoes were ripping homes, businesses, and lives apart across the state. Tonight, we have a team of reporters revisiting the hardest hit areas where the rebuilding continues. WYMT's Katie Roach saw the destruction in downtown West Liberty just hours after the tornado hit. She's live at Morgan County High School tonight to begin our top story team coverage.
Well, today is a very emotional day here in Morgan County. Right now, there are hundreds of people at Morgan County High School for a memorial service. Right now, they are actually releasing lanterns in honor of the victims and just remembering that day, March 2nd, 2012 of last year, where it really just devastated this entire city and this entire county. But there is also a spirit of thankfulness here. In fact, I talked to one woman earlier today who credits God for saving her life that day.
1 year has passed, but Dorcas Burton remembers like it was yesterday.
I remember seeing the wind coming around the law office at the end of the street and just taking the power lines, the traffic lights, wires, and everything, and just taking them. I thought, oh my gosh.
As the tornado ripped apart the city, destroying almost everything in its path.
It came up over the buildings, and so we were right there, right in the middle of Main Street, basically in the eye of the tornado.
One thing stayed intact. The utility van Dorcas and her daughter were inside.
I was so afraid that the van was going to be flipped or just lifted up and, just turned over.
As questions of why and how began to surface, there is one thing she was and is still sure of.
The van would try to lift, but it was just like God was just kept shoving the thing back down. It would try to lift and it would just shove back down.
This is what she would see when she got out of her van on Main Street. Cars turned upside down, debris everywhere, and her business destroyed.
All that brick from that two-story came over on top of that building and collapsed the roof. So had we made it back in, we probably would have been crushed when the roof came in.
Just 3 months after devastation struck her small town, Dorcas reopened her business, the Primitive Homestead, but not on Main Street where she was for 9 years.
I mean, it was a place that was out away from all the rubble, that they could come and kind of put all that out of their mind and come in and shop and talk. And that was my goal, was to make it a warm, cozy, inviting place.
In fact, March 2nd is the 10-year anniversary of when she opened her business, but it is a bittersweet day. Her business is doing well, but she will never forget 1 year ago.
It's not something that I would want to experience again, but I wouldn't trade it, if that makes any sense. There was a sense of a divine presence that was just unreal.
And all she can do now is be thankful.
Now, tonight's memorial service at Morgan County High School is about remembering the 7 people who lost their lives as a result of that tornado, but it is also a service of celebration as we look back on the past year and how far the city has come. And it's also a day to look forward to see Morgan County as they continue to rebuild and grow. Reporting live in Morgan County, I'm Katie Roach. Steve, back to you.
Katie, thank you very much, and we'll have more on the remembrance ceremony there at Morgan County High School coming up tonight at 11. Now, Morgan County Judge Executive Tim Conley was put in the national spotlight after the tornado hit his small town. In the days after the storm, with tears in his eyes, he vowed that his community would recover. We caught up with him again earlier today.
Past year has been full of excitement. It's been full of vision. It's been full of planning for the future. It has flown by. There's some days that you go by and you think this is all I've ever done, but at the same time, it's been a year of a promising year, and looks like it's moved us into a new year of 2013 that it looks like we're going to be able to do the same thing.
Morgan County Judge Executive Tim Conley. The East Bernstadt area of Laurel County was also hit very hard by the tornado outbreak 1 year ago. 6 people were killed there and dozens of homes were damaged or destroyed. WYMT's Tanner Hesterberg talked to one family who rebuilt after a tornado obliterated their home with them inside it.
The Diaz family lives in this home on Hensley Street in East Bernstadt. Looking at it now, you would never be able to picture that 1 year ago at this time, it was in shambles. The storm ripped the roof off the house while the Diazes were still inside. They saw the tornado coming before taking shelter.
It was either an 18-wheeler trailer or a trailer in it. And I seen it multiple times when it was going around. I seen it plain as day. That's something that's
saw a trailer up
I seen it in the twister.
So Michelle and Freddie grabbed their 2 kids and hunkered down in the back bedroom.
You could look and see your hair raising up. You could feel the hair on your head raising up. When it was like a vacuum cleaner, I thought it was going to suck us out.
Everyone lived, but others in East Bernstadt were not as fortunate. And even though the tornado caused $40,000 in damages to the Diaz's home, they rebuilt and say they are different people than they were 1 year ago.
You have a greater empathy for people when they go through that, because you know, you can see it all day long on TV and you're just like, wow, that's really, I really hate that. But when you go through it, you're wanting to cry with them.
The Diazes tell me that this past year's rebuilding process has brought them much closer to their neighbors and deepened their faith in God. In Laurel County, Tanner Hesterberg, WYMT Mountain News.
Tanner, thank you. The Diazes say none of their neighbors were killed, but there were several casualties in the nearby Little Arthur Ridge community. Also in East Bernstadt, a church is marking the 1 year anniversary by giving folks some relief at the pump. Members of the First Baptist Church of East Bernstadt held a gas buy-down where they paid for 52 cents of every gallon of gas pumped at 2 local gas stations.
52 comes from the book of Nehemiah in the Bible. It's a story of Nehemiah's vision to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. And in 52 days, the people of God's people rebuilt the wall. He did a miraculous work in those 52 days. And so we're buying the gas down 52 cents, asking God for a miracle of rebuilding hope here in East Bernstadt.
The First Baptist Church of East Bernstadt is also holding a memorial service as we speak on this 1 year anniversary. We'll have more on that tonight at 11. It is still hard for many to believe the destruction they saw in Salyersville after a tornado destroyed part of that town. People there are also still rebuilding. WYMT's Angela Sparkman returned to Magoffin County today for an update.
1 year ago after the tornado, I stood in this exact same spot and could see all of the destruction, could see people crying, and watched rescuers sift through the rubble. 1 year later, it is a much different scene, but there are still signs of the tornado, and people here say they are a long way from a full recovery. On the night of March 2nd, 2012, this is what Salyersville looked like. The tornado tore apart businesses, homes, schools, churches, and lives.
This was just in a matter of a few minutes, everything was torn to bits.
1 year later, some places look the exact same. Other places are now fields instead of homes. Some places look brand new, while other places are still rebuilding.
It's been a hard year, but they're coming back. It just takes time.
Sheriff Carson Montgomery is just one person who lost a business. Construction is still going on, but he plans to reopen soon. The tornado also wiped out St. Luke Catholic Church.
I went to the steps where the church had been. I knelt down, I cried, and I prayed, and I prayed.
1 year later, his prayers are answered. The church is breaking ground on a new building this weekend.
But then God even heals that pain, that sorrow, and God is even present there in that tragedy.
Dolly Mae Green just recently moved into a new home. The tornado destroyed her home of more than 50 years while she was at a funeral last year.
What I thought, my children was all well, and my friends, and it took the worry off the house, thinking about that.
But she says her life in her new home will never be the same.
Well, I'm thankful, but, you know, it's kind of like a substitute, but it's not. I've not got adjusted yet.
People here say the tornado tore apart their homes and businesses, but not their spirit.
I don't know. It seems like the people here really come together, bonded, probably made them a little bit stronger, to tell you the truth.
And say they will continue to work together until Magoffin County is rebuilt. And some people who still have rebuilding left to do tell me they hope to be open for the 2nd anniversary next year. In Magoffin County, I'm Angela Sparkman, WYMT Mountain News.
Thank you, Angela. And despite all of that destruction in Magoffin County, no one died there. Salyersville is where our chief meteorologist Jim Caldwell grew up, and many of you will remember his very personal tour of the damage a few days after the tornado, when there was actually snow covering all of that damage. This is video from that report on March 5th, 2012. Yesterday, Jim returned to the same spot in Salyersville, which looks much different now.
You know, it's funny. About a year ago, I was standing nearly in the same spot I am right now, but all around me was just ruins. I mean, there was nothing left at all. But now, today, nearly a year later from when I was standing here, a brand new facility has popped up. A place for people to work, a place for people to eat, a place for people to just get together and have a good time. That can happen right here. When you looked at it last year, it looked like total devastation, just like many other places here in eastern Kentucky and specifically right here in Salyersville. Now, you look all around town. Some things haven't changed. Some things are still in the process of coming back, but others are back. It's been a slow process because you're talking about a major tornado coming through this area and not only tearing apart buildings, but tearing apart lives. These people, it shook them up majorly here in Magoffin County, in Morgan County, in Johnson County, in Laurel County, all the way out west as well, because this was a major storm system that brought several tornadoes to our region. Now, things are looking better. You can see that right here. The whole attitude, the whole demeanor of people that I've talked to here in Salyersville and over in some of the other counties, they're ready to get back on track. And just like this place here, standing before us, they are. They're doing it, and they're doing it well.
And Jim, back here with us now in the studio. So many things happened on March 2nd, and while it was so terrible, many weather records, I assume, were broken, and I know the longest tornado path in the country last year was the one that went through West Liberty, right? That's incredible.
That's right. I mean, it went through several counties, and then eventually you had that one, you had the other one in Magoffin County that went all the way over into West Virginia, and the total combined path was just amazing.
It's still hard to believe this happened.
It is, because the setup was so unique for that day. You don't get that very often. I mean, all the measures that we look at in order to determine whether tornadic activity is possible, they were off the charts that day. I'd never seen anything like it, and then it actually happened, and I'd never seen anything like that. So it was a day of shock and awe, and just a terrible day all in all.
Yeah, hopefully we'll never have that again.
I hope not. I hope we don't have numbers that we had like that day. Yeah. We had the West Liberty storm, 140 miles per hour, 160 in Magoffin. It was a terrible day.
Yeah, and today we have snow, nothing like what happened March 2nd.
Yeah, a very different situation completely here. Of course, we had that on March 5th when I was over there, the snow.
Right. All right, Jim. Well, we'll hear more from you and get more on the rest of the forecast a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the wintry, nasty stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it is pretty wintry out there today, Jim. Thank you very much. Well, another county hit hard by the storms was Johnson County. WYMT's Whitney Burks was in Hager Hill the night after the tornado hit. She revisited that community today and shows us how far they have come.
As you can see, there are still signs of the damage left behind by that March 2nd tornado, but the people here in Johnson County say throughout the past year, they have been working hard to rebuild their homes and their lives. As they look out across their neighborhood, the people living in this Johnson County community say they have come a long way, but the images of that fateful night will never leave their minds.
I think I feel have a souvenir. It's just something you don't explain. And the lightning flash, I said it just looked like big fingers of lightning covered that entire sky.
She calls it the calm before the storm, but within minutes, it was anything but calm.
It is something that still traumatizes us.
The EF3 tornado barreled through, showing little mercy to anything in its path. It claimed 2 lives in Johnson County that night, 16-year-old Sean Shepard and 20-year-old Greg Perry. Survivors say seeing firsthand the toll it took makes them hold on to their loved ones a little tighter.
I had the little 2-year-old and I just got her little face in my hands and started kissing her. We could have lost these babies. We could have lost our own lives, and we could have all been gone.
Dozens of homes left in shreds, families left with nothing but the clothes on their backs.
They're trying to ask me to make decisions. I just don't care. I just want a roof over my head right now.
It is a day they never want to relive.
If I could rewind and go back to January 1, 2012 and redo, I would absolutely do it in a heartbeat.
But they are thankful for the chance to go on. Now, I was out here in the Hager Hill community a year ago after the tornado hit, and to see how far many of these people have come is just really very heartwarming. In Johnson County, Whitney Burks, WYMT Mountain News.
Thanks, Whitney. People in Hager Hill say most of the rebuilding is done, but there is still some cleanup work to do. There were no lives lost in Martin County, but there were several families left with nothing but each other. WYMT's Hillary Thornton shows us how folks help victims get a roof over their heads.
The tornado ripped through this street in the small town of Lovely, destroying many homes that used to stand here behind me. But now, 1 year later, you can see signs of progress with many of the homes being rebuilt. The damage still visible and the memories still vivid.
Wind just blew me in and put me in the floor, and all I could see was the roof coming down on me.
James Hensley remembers brushing himself off and finding his friend beneath her collapsed home.
And I just hugged her, and I said, just thank God that he was watching over you. And she said, I'm a bleeding bad. Well, I took her and put her in the car and wiped the blood off of her, and then I started hollering for help.
This was the scene across much of Martin County after the twister hit. Trinity Free Will Baptist Church became the center of relief for the community as the only structure in the area to have electricity for days. The church provided 3 meals a day for approximately 350 people and helped those who lost their homes rebuild.
It really touches your heart when you think about what everybody else sacrificed to help these people that had lost everything.
Hensley now has a roof over his head thanks to the generosity of others.
Fixed this here nice for me. I love it. Wouldn't take nothing for it. The Lord's been so good to me. I wouldn't turn back on him for nothing.
And with so much loss, because they are alive, they say there is certainly reason to be thankful.
We just thank the Lord for that. I mean, that was the most important part about it. Other stuff, you can put it back.
And while the folks living here say there are signs of progress, they know there are still several hard days to come as they continue to pick up the pieces. In Martin County, Hillary Thornton, WYMT Mountain News.
Hillary, thank you. The folks in Martin County say they are grateful to everyone who stepped in to help, not only from this area, but from across the country. Well, coming up on this special weekend edition, we will take you to the National Weather Service in Jackson and tell you about a new warning system for future severe weather outbreaks. And we ask you to share some of your thoughts with us about the tornado outbreak on social media. We will tell you what some of you had to say. Officials with the National Weather Service are updating how they will warn people about the next big storm. WYMT's Matthew Rand joins us now in the newsroom with more on that. Matthew?
Steve, the National Weather Service is moving to what's called an impact-based warning system. The new warnings will work just like the old system, and you will still see the familiar tornado watch and tornado warning messages. But now meteorologists will be able to tag on additional information to give people a better idea of the storm heading their way. The National Weather Service will soon update its severe weather warnings to an impact-based system, which will provide more detailed descriptions of weather events. Meteorologists say they could have used the system last year.
When you have a large catastrophic tornado that's moving towards people like we had on March 2nd, being able to use the impact-based warning will just provide another level of alert for people.
Meteorologists say the idea behind the new warning system is to provide as much information as possible for when tornadoes threaten. The new warnings will include words like considerable and catastrophic to describe expected damage.
If you hear the word catastrophic over just hearing the word tornado warning, you're going to think, oh, this could be a really bad situation. I better pay attention and see what's going on.
Tornadoes like the ones that hit March 2nd are extremely rare, but forecasters say the mountains do frequently receive smaller tornadoes and plenty of severe thunderstorms.
People need to take all thunderstorm warnings seriously, all tornado warnings seriously, and severe thunderstorms can produce as much or more damage than a small tornado, which is typically what we see.
Meteorologists say the new warnings will provide people with that extra bit of information so they will know to get to safety when severe weather strikes. The National Weather Service tested the new system in the Plains region of the country last summer. Weather stations from Kentucky to Colorado will begin using the new system April 1st. Steve?
All right, Matthew, thanks. The events that unfolded 1 year ago today are ones that not only left their mark on the eastern Kentucky region forever physically, but also emotionally. In fact, many remember the devastation as if it happened just yesterday. WYMT's Michelle Herron joins us now with a look back in your own words. Michelle?
Thank you, Steve. Well, we asked you guys on our Twitter and Facebook pages what you remember from that painful day and to share your encounters. Well, here it is, March 2nd, 1 year later, in your own words. Something we can't ever forget. A short yet powerful sentence that describes how people across the mountains reflect back to March 2nd, 2012. Several tornadoes ripped through the area, killing 24 people and leaving devastation across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia. As the storms rolled into the region, many scrambled to find safe shelter. Audrey Wyatt from Harrogate, Tennessee writes, "My husband and I grabbed our little dog and ran downstairs into our bathroom." Rebecca Mortimer of Salyersville, "I was at work at Dairy Queen. We had about 15 people in the cooler, plus more in the hallway. State police also pulled people off the road to seek shelter there with us." Others recall not knowing what happened to their loved ones back home. Kenny McFarland of Salyersville, "I was 25 miles away, not knowing if my family was alive. When I finally made it to the house, it was destroyed. My fear was that they were dead in that house. When I walked to a community center where a shelter was set up, I saw the faces of my wife, my 3-year-old, and my 7-year-old. They were okay." But one thing Mother Nature couldn't shake was the Kentucky spirit. As soon as the storms passed, communities immediately banded together, working side by side to help one another. Holly Gilkey King, "I'm so proud of the first responders and volunteers who came together that tragic day to put this community back together. The region has overcome so much in the last year and still has a long way to go. One thing is for certain, we will never forget the raw destruction from that day or the lives that were lost." Now, many more of you shared your thoughts with us from that tragic day on our social media pages. You can log on to our Facebook, Twitter, and WYMT.com to add yours to the list. Steve.
All right, Michelle, thank you very much. We'll be right back with the forecast.
And now, Sky Alert weather featuring Pinpoint Doppler, eastern and southern Kentucky's most dependable forecast. Sponsored by Community Trust Bank, building communities built on trust.
All right, our live Pinpoint Doppler radar active today with numerous snow showers here in the region. Now, as we head through the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours, some of these could eventually turn into some very light accumulations here in eastern Kentucky and maybe in the higher elevations a little bit more so.
maybe an inch or so. Certainly a good possibility at most, but a lot of this energy will eventually fall apart. Now, really quick, I'm going to recap one particular graphic from a year ago. We're going to show you the three big tornadoes here. West Liberty, Sayersville, East Bernstead. You can see 140 miles per hour, 160 miles per hour, and also 125 miles per hour. Quite the event for March 2nd. And then almost every single county in Kentucky under a tornado warning at some point during that system. Now let me show you a 3-day forecast. 34 tomorrow, cool, dry on Monday, and a big-time weather changer comes our way on Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. I'll be honest with you, this one has potential to be quite the mess for us, but it's not ready to nail it down completely just yet, and we'll continue to monitor that, Steve.
And 1 week from today, 60 degrees. I like that. I'm already thinking about next weekend.
It's hard to get past that mess next week, though, for me, so yeah.
Hopefully it won't be too bad. Jim, thank you very much. That's going to do it for this special edition of Mountain News. We'll have much more coverage of the anniversary of the tornado outbreak coming up tonight on an expanded edition of Mountain News Weekend Edition at 11 o'clock. The boys' 14th Region Championship game is next live on WYMT. Good night, everyone.